Welcome back. Hope you've had fun doing your genealogy for the last couple of weeks since we last met. And here we are again. This time we're going to do a little look into Findmypast, a website that many of you may not be very familiar with. And so what we'll do today is try to work on helping us to better understand this website. What we'll do is we'll talk a little bit about what Findmypast is, ways to access it, why have a tree at that website, and then hints and searching for records, and also do a little demo of a search. Okay, Findmypast is what we used to call a partner site with FamilySearch. They don't like that term anymore, so they call them third-party subscriptions. So for those that are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you have free access to this pay website. And you can find how to get to that, to hook up with them, by going to the bottom of the homepage when you first sign into FamilySearch, and look for a link down there amongst all the things they have at the bottom of the page. Look for the little link that says third-party access, and you're going to click on My Heritage. If you are on any other page in FamilySearch.org, go down to the bottom and find the Solutions link and click on that, and it will take you to essentially the same place. So if I click on all third parties, just to show you all the different ones, I could just click on Findmypast, but to show you all of them with a little background on them, this is the page that'll come up, and the one you're going to want to click on is Findmypast. You have to do it this way. You have to go sign into FamilySearch first, and then click on the link to associate your FamilySearch account with one of these other pay sites. You have to do it from within FamilySearch so that it knows who you are at FamilySearch and can verify your credentials that way. Okay, so what is Findmypast? Well, it's a site that actually began back in 1965, well before the internet. And it was a company called Title Research. And it was essentially a group of genealogists in the UK that were doing research, essentially trying to find the title for things, trying to find how you, how you could verify your background, your parentage, and your ancestry. In 1999, they started a project transcribing what's called the GRO indexes, General Record Office indexes of birth, marriage, and death records. These are the national records, not the church records, but the governmental records of birth, marriage, and deaths. This index eventually became what's called the Free BMD, the Free Birth, Marriage, and Death Record Index that's found in the UK. A couple of years later, in 2001, they began to computerize these records, and they at first called it 1837 Online. That's because 1837 is when the public records were begun. And they started keeping government records of birth, marriage, and death. In 2003, they went live on the internet as 1837 Online. In 2006, they rebranded their site as Findmypast, and that's what it's been called since then. Okay, the chief collections that they have there, this is basically primarily a UK site. The majority of the records pertain to the United Kingdom and or also the British colonies around the world, Canada, and other countries around the world. Their chief collections, the things that they're most proud of, are the 1921 census for England and Wales, which is the most recent that's available. a document that we'll be talking about later called the 1939 Register. Also, the English and Wales vital records since 1837, these records that they were indexing from way back when. And the British and Irish parish registers. They have the largest collection of parish registers for Great Britain and Ireland of anywhere in the world. They have a great collection of Irish records. They have things like the Social Security Death Index from the US. They have British and in India. They have naturalizations. They have a great newspaper archive, but it's a separate pay subscription to be able to get access to it. Okay, so they have a lot of things, primarily centered around the UK. Okay, access to it. We've talked about the fact that members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints can have free access to this through their FamilySearch account and their membership in the church. Anybody can go visit a FamilySearch center, whether you have an account with Findmypast or not, because FamilySearch has an agreement with them and has Findmypast on their portal, the program that they run on their computers that has several free access to pay sites such as Ancestry, Findmypast, MyHeritage, and several others, Fold 3. And so the version you'll see there isn't quite the full version that a person could pay to subscribe to. It's called an institutional version, but it has most, though not quite everything, that's at Findmypast. And then, of course, anybody can pay for a subscription. They have two levels. It's kind of funny. They call the lowest level the ultimate subscription. Just don't let them fool you. That's the lesser of the two. It's essentially $19.99 a month. Their premium subscription, which is their more complete one, is $29.99 a month, and that includes full access to the 21 census and also the newspaper archives that they have there. Okay, why put a tree on this site? Well, the biggest reason for it is so that you can take advantage of the power of artificial intelligence and the way they can search for records for you, so that you don't, if you weren't trying to find somebody in your family, you don't have to do a search yourself every time. You can take advantage of their ability to locate records and tag them to people in your tree. And so you can create multiple trees here, just like at Ancestry, and they will all populate with what we call hints, just like the green leaf hints at Ancestry or the hints that are found at FamilySearch, the little blue hints that you see located on people. This is the same basic thing. You get a tree, you need to be able to create a GEDCOM. You may need some help to do that. People at the FamilySearch centers can help you if you don't know how to create a GEDCOM. What you can do, there are several different sites that were what we used to call the partner sites with FamilySearch. If you create a GEDCOM for use in these sites, you can use the same GEDCOM and download it at all the different sites and have essentially the same tree. The tree I would put in there isn't necessarily the complete tree with all the descendants. I would put in a tree that has my ancestry and has the children of my ancestors. I have just that much. I have a tree here. I have two of them actually. And the big tree, the one you're looking at here, has 8,000 or so people in it. They do have restrictions on their GEDCOMs. One of the things is, and it's not really their restriction, is something you need to understand, that when you download a GEDCOM into here, wherever it came from, that GEDCOM did not bring over the media files. So you're not going to have pictures, you're not going to have tombstone images and things like that, because those don't transfer in a GEDCOM. You'll have a size limit of 140 megabytes. Like I said, I've got over 8,000 people in my tree and had no trouble uploading it. And you can only upload up to 120,000 relatives. So I think most of us are pretty safe when it comes to how many people you want to put over there. But this is my tree. It only took seconds to build. Really nice. And the thing is, it had all those little hints on there. Now, where do you find this tree? Well, when you're in Findmypast, you go to where it says Family Tree and click on that, and it'll bring up a page here. And when you want to create the tree, you won't have anything listed there. So you will go and click across the screen over on Import a Tree. Create a tree would be to enter it one by one. You don't want to do that. You want to learn how to create a GEDCOM and then manage that and just upload it to the site. And there's your tree. Like I said, it only took a few seconds to create it. And as soon as you put it in, Findmypast will start looking for records for these people. And so if you want to find out what they have about your person, it won't take very long for you to find out the very obvious things that they have, because those hints will start appearing immediately. So how do we access these hints? Okay, well, here's my mother from my tree. It has a 7 there, which means there are 7 hints. So when you click on her, just on the black box there where her name is, it shows you essentially her person card like we would have at FamilySearch. And at the bottom, you'll see that it has 7 hints. And when you click on those, this is the way their hints look. It's a little bit different. They'll have a little box for each hint. It's going to tell you the kind of record, like this is a census, this is from a member's tree, this is civil death and burial records. It'll tell you the description of what it's coming from. And it'll give you a little bit of the basic information that's showing. And it also has this little number up here, which I think is very interesting. They try to show you how much similar this is to her actual record. In other words, the 1930 census has about a 70% match, probably because the way her name was entered was Jenny E. Hale. And the Jenny was spelled different. It only has the initial instead of Elizabeth. And she's in Bloomfield, whereas she was born in East Orange in New Jersey. So there's some variations. But anyway, it'll show you how much confidence they have in the hint. When you click on one of the hints, and this actually isn't that first hint, this is another one. I think this is the 1920 census. And it'll say the information that's found there. This is the transcription that they're showing. If there's variations from the official name that's on her record, it'll let you know that. And it'll let you, if you want to attach this record as a hint, it'll make the name that's here, J. Elizabeth Hale, an alternate name. And it'll go right in her list of data. And it'll show you, they like to be able to show variations on like dates, variations on names, and things like that on people's record. But it's pretty much the same as anywhere else. If you want to accept this hint, you just say add to tree. If you want to reject it, you just click reject. And once you've added it in, it's going to say congratulations. And here's the things from this hint that we did. Like they added a full name, her race was added, her birth was added. And then I can go ahead and go back to her profile, this page, or I can explore more hints. I can just keep working through the hints. Okay, so this is the person's profile page expanded. And I did this so that you can see what all is in there on these people that are in your tree, because you'll probably work from your tree when you're looking for information. So it's nice to know how the tree functions. Right now, there are several different pages that could be opened. Just like at FamilySearch, there are several options of things you can open, like you can open up the sources, you can open up the details and the about page and things like that. Here they have the same thing: timeline, facts, hints, stories, media, notes. I've opened it up to the facts page, and you will see that sometimes there are preferred facts, and then there'll be alternate facts. Like in this case, there was a source that gave her birth as 1918, when in fact her actual birth date's in 1917. Okay, so those are the variations on the pages. If you want to do some editing, you can edit by going to the little box, or the little bubbles, I should say, to the side of that particular fact. In this case, if I wanted to remove that 1918 New Jersey birth, I could just come over here and I could then edit it, or I could just delete it. When I click on the pencil, one of the options will be to delete this fact, this alternate fact. Okay, searching for records. Pretty much similar to other sites, you know, a little switch in here or there. One of the strange things is the fact that you're not going to see the search button very often. It will just go ahead and start searching as you fill in information. So I don't have English ancestry that's newer than the 1600s. So what I did is I went over to my wife's family, because my wife's mother had a lot of British Isles ancestry, 100%. And so this is one of her lines. We're looking for James Lee, born about 1837 in Nottingham, England, son of William Lee and Mary Tatlow. So I just fill in basic information. James Lee, born about 1837, plus or minus 2 years to give a little wiggle room. Born in England, and I put in Linton, Nottinghamshire. But you'll notice that this is grayed out, and that's because it wants you to start filtering down. It doesn't want to give you everything under the sun. It wants you to go and select a search type. And so what I did is I looked at the options, and you can see it's already telling me how much is there. If I go to trees, I'm going to have 1,300 of them to look at. Records only available on Findmypast, 499. There's 14 newspaper records, which I won't be able to see because I don't have the subscription. There's 503 results for census and 90 results for birth, marriage, and death. So I said, okay, let's look for the census. And so I went and selected that type. And when I did, it took me over and filled my information into a census search form. And it says already that there are 503 results. And try to remember less is best. This works on most sites. Don't try to be too complex. At first, try a simple search with just some basic information and see what it gets you. Okay, so here's the results page. Going to have 503, but I'm not going to want to look at all 503. I can edit things. I can edit this search and change it by just changing my values that I've entered. And I can also edit by doing some filtering with the links. If it should happen to have some other names than Lee, if I click on last names, it'll alphabetize all the results. Same thing with first names. If I click on year of birth, it would put them in birth order. And I could click on record sets and it would give me like the 1841 census, then the 51, then the 61, 71, 81, 91, and so on. Right now, they're all kind of scrambled. And I didn't really need to do much about it because actually the very first one on there is one I want to look at. This is the 1841 census when James was about 4 years old. And so how do I get to see what they've got? Well, there's those little symbols over there at the right-hand side of the page. And the first one is view transcript. So if the one on the left is there, that means you've got a transcript you can look at. If the one on the right-hand side is there, that means there's an image you can view. And if you look real close, you'll notice on this first one, there's little red check marks. They will tell you ones you've already looked at by putting the little red check mark on them, which is kind of nice. So you can also, at the bottom of the page, it'll give you a chance to do some further filtering by types of records. So it says, okay, you're obviously looking in England and you're looking at census, land, and surveys. That's what the 503 were. If I wanted to switch over to birth, marriage, and death, I could just click here and everything over on the left-hand side would switch over to those kind of records. But I can go through here and I see that 503 is made up of 17 census records, 484 electoral rolls. That's interesting that they have a lot of these rolls where it gave when people voted, they had to register just like we do. Those books are available for us to see. This will help you track your people as they move around, if they move. And I can go to other things like the newspapers that I can't view and so on. So they do a lot of nice filtering for you to help you switch around to the kind of record that you think might be more valuable. I like that. Okay, image versus transcript, of course. This is a picture of an image of a census. And this is the transcript for that same image. Now, it's a little bit different maybe than you're used to. Most of the other sites that we've been at, they put the transcript of the person's record first up on top. If you're on James's record, it would put James up at the top and then put the family down below. They do it the other way around. So you just need to be aware of that. That at the top of this transcript, you're going to see the whole family listed with their basic information. And then below, you will see this person's specific information. And one of the things that's real nice about British census and birth and death records are the lovely way that they like to put exactly where the person was born. Now, in this case, they're not being real specific. It's just saying Nottinghamshire. Often you'll see the actual parish listed, which is really nice. The other thing you're not going to see on this particular page, because I had to cut it off, it has the address, Town Street, Lenton, Radford, Nottinghamshire. There is a map below there with a arrow showing you exactly where the family lived. And you'll see this on a couple of other slides. That's something you don't see at other sites. This is really cool. Okay, so the family's at top and the person's transcripts down below. Now, when you're looking for sources, things to look for, records, you start by going to the page that has this ribbon across the top where you can go to trees, to searches, to newspapers, to the 1921 census, to my research and help. And if you click on the search, in this case, we're going to look for James Lee's marriage in 1867 to Lydia Aiken. You're going to go to search, and when you click on it, you're going to get these 3 columns. They're going to try to guide you into collections. They're trying to get you away from that general, let's search the whole website thing, because they know you're going to bury you in records and they don't want to do that. So they're going to try to gently probe you towards, a more specific type search. And so if I'm looking for James's marriage, the logical place to go from there is to this link where it has birth, marriage, and death parish registers in this case. And so it takes me to the parish birth, marriage, and death registers. And I fill in just basically what I know. James Lee, they married in 1867, plus or minus 2 years. They lived in Nottingham. I didn't bring it down to the city because I'm not sure. So I just said, listen, Nottinghamshire, England, wife's Lydia Aiken. And do you notice there's no search button? Down at the bottom, it already says, view the 1 result. It's telling me I got 1 result for that search. And when I pull it up, it appears to be my guy, James Lee, 1867, Nottingham marriages in Nottingham, Nottinghamshire. So it's in the city of Nottingham. If I click that little symbol there, it will take me to the transcript. And it shows his wife's name is Lydia. Her last name is Aiken. And so this is the exact record I wanted with the marriage date of 22 April, 1867. The church was St. Savior, and they were Anglican. So I learned a lot from these records. These are really good records that they have in the United Kingdom. Okay, also understand that they have some what they call important or unique databases. And they're found when you do that search on the search page. One of them's the newspapers. And like I said, they have probably the best, largest collection of British and Irish newspapers from the 1700s to the present. The trouble is it's behind a paywall. You have to pay extra if you want to find these. And because they're United Kingdom, you're probably not going to find too much if you're going out and trying to out other sites to see if you can find something. I found one today on My Heritage that was a U.S. newspaper, and their newspaper collection is also behind a paywall. But knowing that that record existed, I went over to Ancestry because I have the paid version of their newspaper collection, look for the same record, and it was there. You can often do that, find one at one place, just note the date and the location and the name you were searching, and try it in some of the search engines on other newspaper sites that you can get to, and sometimes you can see these. So anyway, the newspapers are great, but you need a subscription. The all records sets is a nice way of them collecting together like all the military records. You can do one search for military or one search for census and so on. And in there is included this 1939 register. They wanted a census at the beginning of the World War, of the Second World War. They weren't going to wait until 1941. The war was already started. They needed to know how many people they had. I have a feeling that there was a purpose behind this of making sure they knew where all the guys were so they could draft them. But anyway, they had a problem. They had a 1921 census. They didn't have a 1931 census by 1942 because that got destroyed by fire. And so this 39 census became really important because it became the only record left by 1942 for their population between 1921 and 1942. This was the only record that was there. They did not take a census in 1941. And so the next census after this one is the 1951, and it'll be quite a few years before they can release that. The 1931 census burned actually by accident in 1942. It wasn't due to the war. It was just they had a fire and burned up, just like our 1890 census. And so this is a very important document. And it's exclusive to Findmypast. And one of the things that's interesting is they have blacked out people that are on there that they can't verify are deceased. If they think the person's alive, they black out the line of the census of that register that has that person's information. We'll show you that later. Okay, then they also have the 1921 census, and that's the most recent publicly released census, and it's an exclusive at Findmypast. You can actually search for it at FamilySearch and Ancestry, but to see the record, you got to come over to Findmypast. Okay, here's this 1939 register. I'm going to look for Cyril Lee, who was born about 1900 in Northampton. He was the son of William and Emily Lee. So I put Cyril W. Lee, 1900, Northamptonshire. And you notice no search button. It just gives me two results, one for Cyril and one for a William C. Cyril's the guy I want. And so here is his record, his transcript from that 1939 register. The transcript included an address. And here's a chance for you to see that there is an actual map for the town that he was in Northampton. And it shows with the little circle pin, this is exactly where he lived within that town. I haven't seen this on any other of the major websites. And this is phenomenal to be able to see exactly where within a community the person lived. And so that is neat. Okay, this is what that register looks like. And there you see 3 people in a family who are considered still living. What they actually do is they're keeping track of people that are marked off on here. And as they find that they have passed away, or they find a record for them where they are passed away, they will go ahead and then uncover the line that's been closed. It's not a permanent thing. It's something that can be adjusted. And here's Cyril Lee's family with his wife. And talks about he was a retired cycle shop manager. I love some of the little details you can find. Okay, all record sets. That's another way you can look. You know, most websites will tell you, let's see all the records that you have. And so they do have, when you go down to search, they have a button to search all records. They have then another one where you can see all the record sets. And they collect them in the initial way they are filtered. They have 2,800 different record sets, is by size. And I wanted you to see this because of a special one that's there. They have 249,249,000,000 US marriage records, all in one collection. You can do a single search of all 249 million records. This is the only place on the web that you can do this. And of course, they did this in hopes that US people would come over here and check out that record. They also have one further down on the same page, United States passenger and crew lists. So for ships coming to the United States, they have almost 120 million records of passengers and crew for ships that went from England to the US. And so there's some really nice big collections that can be searched with a single search for your family. And of course, they have these kind of records also for, UK locations. Okay, they also provide us with some help. A couple of the things that they have, their help hub would be the equivalent of our help and learning center, where you can go to get documents that will help you understand how to do things. They also have a Findmypast community, which is pretty similar to the collaborative effort that FamilySearch has in their FamilySearch community. So I just wanted you to see those. They also tell you what's new and how to build your tree, frequently asked questions, getting started, and things like that. Just like most other sites, but I thought I'd show you the two that I thought would be the most helpful. Okay, so let's try a little experiment on one of my wife's families. I've got a William Stoneley, born in 1883, who lived in 1966, married Mary Ann Carton, and showed no children. And it had 4 sources, but nothing was showing on him after their marriage in 1901. No censuses after that were there at all. So I said, okay, let's do a search for him, and we'll do just the basic information, William Stoneley. And I didn't even put in his birth date. I must have added that later. I just put Nottinghamshire is where he lived. And I changed the focus to the UK census. Whoops. And it said there were 48 results. Remember, I don't even have to quick search. And so here's the start of the 48 results. And what I was after was the very first one there. The 1891 census for William Stoneley, and born in 1883. And then the one below it appears to be him in the 1921 census. And like many census records, it's off by 2 years from his actual birth date, but that's not surprising. So we'll go take a look at that by clicking on, let's see, the transcript. And so here's the transcript of the family. And sure enough, this is the family. It's William and Mary Ann. And it shows us 3 children. Children born in 1909, 1911, 1917. And so I wanted to follow up on this family. And so I started doing some searching. I won't drag you through all those. Ultimately, I was able to find a marriage for the first child, for Francis, and a marriage for Hilda, the 3rd child. I found birth and death information on all 3 children and spouses, except for a death for Hilda. That was where I was stumped at first. And so I had pretty good information. You don't see a lot there, but it does have behind it full birth and death information for these people, except for Hilda. So I said, let's follow up on Hilda. So I did a search and I got her Smedley marriage. This is from the GRO marriage register. And the way they did is they didn't give exact dates in the registers. They just say it's in this quarter, the 3rd quarter, July, August, September 1939 quarter, that Hilda married a Smedley. And so I know that much about it, and that's going to be all I really need to know. And I can go from there and go look for the actual marriage record. Or I can go, in this case, to the register, 1939 register, and she shows up there because the register was taken late enough in the year that even though they married somewhere between July and September, they were shown married. in 1939 with their full birth dates and the fact that he was a cinema projectionist and she was an unpaid domestic, which I think means housekeeper. And it shows that they were married. And I tried to, and they were living in Grimsley, Lincolnshire. They'd moved over into Lincolnshire at this time. Now, from there, I tried to find her death, but there's too many Hilda Smedleys, unfortunately, and none that I could hook up exactly. I found a newspaper obit for a couple of them, but I can't see the obit because it's behind the paywall. So I was just kind of stymied and just had to leave it at this. But this is the kind of searching you can do at Findmypast. So in conclusion, even if you don't have relatives over in the United Kingdom, this is a site that is nice to become familiar with because there are some records from the US there that could help you. And sooner or later, I guarantee you, you're going to run into people that are from there that would like some help. And it's nice to be able to be familiar enough that you're not afraid to go over there and say, let's go look at Findmypast and see what we can find. Because it's not really that hard to use this site. And try to remember again, like I said, there are records here that aren't just from the United Kingdom. Remember that large marriage collection for the US. Okay, I always like to remind you, you're watching this YouTube video, and this is our channel that it's coming from, President Moore State Family Search Center Trainings. We would appreciate it if you would click subscribe so you can get future ones. This happens to be our 100th video in our collection. And if you go where the blue link is, if you want some extra help, there's a blog where there's a little page for each one of these videos where it'll take you back to the link to the video itself and also to a link of a PDF document that will have all the slides from the presentation so that you can review the presentation by looking at the slides one by one. So we appreciate you checking up with us today. I hope you learned a little something. I hope you enjoy using Findmypast in the future. And so until next time, have fun in doing your researching. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.